Good evening and good morning, everyone. My name is Sanjay Singh, and I welcome all of you to this online webinar on Azure administration. So, where we will get information about Azure infrastructure. So, during the webinar, if there would be some question from your side, if there would be some queries from your side, you can post your queries into question section. So, once I will complete this webinar with lab, I will come to your queries and I will answer to your queries. So let me start. Let me introduce first of all myself. So my name is Sanjay Singh, and I'm an MCT Microsoft Certified Trainer. So where I have certification in the same domain, I have 13 years plus of experience into IT training as well as into production. So I have certification into Azure administration, into Azure architecting, Azure designing, Azure security. Apart from Azure domain, I have certification into AWS cloud as well. So I have certification into AWS Cloud Practitioner, AWS Cloud Solution Architect, and Professional. And apart from AWS domain, I have certification into Windows Server family as well, in Windows Server 2003, 2008 R2, 2022 R2, MCC into cloud platform, MCC into private cloud, as well as MCSA into 2016. Apart from Windows Server domain, I have certification into Cisco as well. I have certification into Huawei as well, and I'm an authorized trainer of Microsoft, AWS, and Huawei. So that is the certifications which I'm currently holding. Now, let me start this webinar with objective, what we are going to cover in this webinar and what information you will get through this webinar that I'm going to explain you. That is our objective of this webinar. Introduction of Azure portal. So what types of tabs are available on Azure portal, then networking components, just because this would be a core part of infrastructure. So if you will be from infrastructure background and you want to move into Azure administration, into Azure cloud administration, so you should have knowledge of on Azure networking. So we will discuss about Azure networking components, then Azure policies, and at the end of this session, we will do one lab on Azure load balancer so that you will get one idea how to distribute your load if you're going to use high availability for your resources, and how you will distribute your requests to your backend resources that we will discuss and we will see through the lab. Let me start with portal and cloud shell. So basically when it comes to management tool, so I would request all of you to hold down your queries. If you have any query, you can post your query into question and answer section, correct? So once I will complete this webinar with lab, I will come to your queries and I will answer to your queries, correct? So till then you can post your query into question section or you can hold down. So when it comes to management, when you have to manage Azure portal, Azure cloud, how you will manage, what tools are available to manage Azure cloud. So let's assume this would be Azure cloud. If I have to manage Azure cloud, how I will manage, what tools are available. So either I can manage through portal, or through PowerShell, or through CLI, or I can use Cloud Shell, which will be accessible into browser, or I can use, if I'm a developer and if I have expertise into Java, PHP, Python, Ruby. So based on my expertise, I can use SDKs. So through SDK, I can also access Azure services. So these are the management tools through which I can access and manage Azure resources. I can use a mobile app also. So where you will get a mobile app for Android as well as for iOS. So based on your mobile, you can download this mobile application and you can sign in through your Azure account, and you would be able to manage your resources through mobile application or through Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell access you will get into your mobile phone, where you can run PowerShell or CLI command. So this would be a feature which you will get into mobile application also. So if you are not carrying your laptop and desktop, you would be able to manage your resource through mobile application. Now, when it comes to manageability, so either I can use web portal. Through web portal, I would be able to manage my resources on portal through web UI. Otherwise, what I can do, if I'm using my laptop and if my laptop supports Azure PowerShell modules or CLI, that means if I have prerequisite which is required to download PowerShell modules and CLI. So like I need .NET 4.7 or later, I need PowerShell version 5.1 on my system. I need 64-bit operating system, on my desktop or laptop. So if I have these prerequisite softwares, if I already have these software, these tools on my system, I would be able to download these modules on my local system, and I can manage Azure resources through local system, through local PowerShell. Similarly, if I have 64-bit operating system, I can download one CLI tool on my local system, and through my local system CMD command prompt, I would be able to manage my Azure resources. That is possible. You can use your local system CMD and you can manage your Azure resources. But using local PowerShell and CLI, you have to authenticate yourself to your ID and password, which you are using for your Azure account. So you have to authenticate. What if I'm using the 32-bit operating system? What if I don't have PowerShell 5.1 or .NET Framework 4.7 on my local system? So it means I cannot access my account through local system PowerShell or CLI. So if I have to run some script through PowerShell or through CLI, or if there would be some services which I need to manage through PowerShell and CLI, how I will do that? So in that case, Azure is giving you Cloud Shell. You can use this tool, Cloud Shell, which is a web UI accessible tool, where if you will follow my cursor, my pointer, you can see this drop down. In this drop down right now, PowerShell is connected. So if I will click on this drop down, I will get a tab where I can switch into Power Bash also. So PowerShell means where I can run PowerShell command. Bash means where I can run CLI commands. So based on your expertise, basically, again, if I'm from Windows background, so just because I'm from Windows background, I'm a Windows administrator, I'm a PowerShell administrator, so who have knowledge of PowerShell, so I will choose PowerShell for my configuration, for my deployment. Correct. If I'm from Linux background where I have knowledge of Bash scripting, I have knowledge of Bash command, I will use Bash platform to manage my resources. It depends on you, it depends on your expertise. So in which tool you are expertise. If you don't have knowledge of PowerShell and Bash, so Azure is recommending you to configure first of all your resources, to manage your resources through portal. And once you will get experience on portal, start exploring PowerShell and Bash. So these are the management tools which we can use, through which we can manage our resources. So as I told you, you can use Azure Cloud Shell, you can choose PowerShell or Bash from Cloud Shell, or you can choose local system PowerShell, you can choose local system CLI, or you can use mobile application. In mobile application, you will get complete visibility, transparency on your resource, on your subscription, as well as you will get access of Cloud Shell so that you can run your commands through, you can execute your commands through PowerShell or Bash from your mobile application only. So if you are not carrying your laptop and desktop, you have knowledge of PowerShell and CLI, you would be able to manage your resources through your mobile also. You can execute your command, you can deploy your resource, you can manage your resource. If you have to stop your virtual machine, you can run one command through PowerShell, or you can stop through your mobile application UI also. Network services, when it comes to networking, so in networking, basically, that is a core part of your webinar, basically, or a core part of infrastructure admin. So based on your compliance rule, based on the customization, so customization which we need, or where we need to deploy our application with customized environment or infrastructure, then in that case, you have to build your infrastructure, your network infrastructure, similar to on-premise. So similar to physical data center, if I have to build my physical data center, first of all, what I will do, I will create one network infrastructure. I will design my network infrastructure. Well, I will design that this would be my network address for my organization. And if this would be network address in my organization, I have departments, like I have production department, I have dev and test department, I have logistic department, I have HR department. So I have departments in my organization, in my data center, where I'm going to place my resources, which should be isolated from other departments. So I will do subnetting, and where I will divide my address, network address, into subnets. Correct. So that is a basically network designing into production environment in physical data center. So if we need same type of customization into Azure also, where I need complete control over my network infrastructure or my appliances which I'm going to place inside my network, so that I can manage flow of my traffic. So if I have that kind of requirement, how I will do that. So basically Azure is giving you a service which is known as VNet, virtual network, or you can say VPC, virtual private cloud. So in AWS, that is known as, this service is known as VPC. Here in Azure, that is known as VNet. So virtual network. So you can design your virtual network where you can deploy your two-tier or three-tier application. So if you have two-tier architecture application or three-tier architecture application, you can create one VNet in which you can create subnets and where you can deploy your resources, and based on your compliance, you can place your NVA device, network virtual appliance like firewall or any other device through which you are going to manage your traffic, ingress or egress traffic. So you would be able to filter your traffic as well. You would be able to do routing as well. So through your routes, your custom route, through user defined route, you would be able to manage your routes as well. So this type of customization you will get into through the VNet. So you would be responsible, or you would be basically you're going to manage your traffic flow through the firewall. So like NSG, network security group, which will be attached to your virtual machines. So through which you will allow sorry, everything will be denied. So there would be few default rules through which will allow your internal communication within the VNet, and communication to internet, which you can disable. So again, you can filter your traffic by creating inbound and outbound rule. So with priority, okay. So rule which have the highest priority, that rule will come in effect. Okay, so you can create rules, firewall rules through which you can filter your traffic, and based on your requirement, if I have to open port 80, I will open port 80. If I have to open traffic from port from web tier, let's assume I have two tier application, web tier and DB tier. So from web tier to DB tier, communication I have to enable. So I will enable only on my DB port, which would be 1433 or 3306. So I will open my communication only on this port. So except in these port, if I'm getting any request from any other on any other port, that will be discarded by my DB resources. Similarly, on my web tier resources, if I'm going to enable port 80 or port 443, so this would be the port which will be listened by my web tier resources, except then port 80 and port 443. If I'm getting any other request, that will be discarded by my firewall. Correct. So you can manage your traffic flow based on your requirement, based on the compliance requirement. You would be able to manage your traffic through VNet. So Azure VNet, which provides secure communication between resources, Azure load balancer. When it comes to high availability, when I'm saying high availability, what it does mean? It means, let me open Paint so I can draw one design where we can discuss. Let's assume if I'm going to deploy my application on a single instance, on a single virtual machine, let's assume. So single VM, my web content, my DB, everything is hosted on single virtual machine. So if I'm going to deploy my application on a virtual machine, so we have some service model into cloud, which are fundamental, basically fundamentals of cloud. So we have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, and we have software as a service. So these are the service models. So VM, virtual machine, which comes under into infrastructure as a service. Through these service model, you would be able to understand that what is your responsibility. Just because we are going to use public cloud, when I'm going to use public cloud, it means I'm using services of my service provider. I'm using resources of my service provider, which is provided through internet. Correct. So I'm accessing their resources, their compute resource, their network resource, their database resources. I'm accessing through internet. Correct. So resources are placed into their data center, and I'm going to use their resources. So if I'm using public cloud, where my service provider is providing resources to me, so it means there would be some shared responsibility. So where my service provider would be responsible for resources, or I would be responsible for services. Correct. So that responsibility model is defined through these service models, which we will discuss into some other webinar, but that is the fundamental here. Correct. So VM, virtual machine, which comes under into infrastructure as a service. Correct. So where you will create one virtual machine and you will host your web content, your DB content, you would be responsible for your runtime, your data, application, and accessibility, everything. And installing database, configuring database, patching database, a backup database, everything you have to manage into infrastructure as a service. So let's assume I have created one virtual machine where I have hosted one application along with my web content and DB content. So when you will create virtual machine, Microsoft will give you an SLA, service level agreement, which is 99.9%. That means three nines. So three nine SLA, you will get for single virtual machine into Azure. Now, what if my VM goes down? If there would be some disaster to my virtual machine, it means my application will be down. So what should I do? So basically, what I will do, I will create one customized environment where I will create VNet, virtual network, where I will create subnets. So two subnet for web tier, two subnet for DB tier. So web subnet, DB subnet, DB subnet. Correct, within my VNet environment. And I'm going to place my virtual machines, my front end virtual machines into web subnet and my backend, which would be databases, into database subnets. So let's assume four virtual machines, four identical virtual machine for web tier, four identical virtual machine for DB tier, which is created by me for high availability purpose. So you are creating virtual machines with high availability so that you will get maximum high availability. Now, creating more than one virtual machine, identical virtual machine for your application for high availability purpose will not give you high availability. You have to choose high availability options, where in Azure we have availability set, we have availability zone. There are two concepts, availability set and availability zone, which are available as a high availability, or you can configure VM skill set, VMSS, through which you can configure manual scaling or auto scaling. Correct. So these are the options for high availability. When I'm going to use availability set, I will get 99.95% SLA. Correct. If I'm going to use availability zone, I will get 4 nines high availability, which would be the maximum high availability within the region. Just because Azure resources, they are distributed in the region, in a geography. In geography, you will get regions. Inside a region, you will get data center. So this would be your region, like US East. And then inside this region, there would be data centers, physical data centers, which are interconnected with high throughput private link, private fiber link, correct, where you will get less than 2 millisecond latency. So all these data centers are connected with each other. They all are isolated from other data center. Their resources are isolated. So within the region, you will get multiple data center. Now you can use high availability if you will place your resources into multiple data center, which is known as availability zone, in which you will get maximum high availability, 4 nines high availability. Similarly, if I'm going to use availability set, when I'm talking about availability set, as you can see, my high availability percentage as compared to availability zone, that is less. Why? Just because when I'm talking about availability set, it means I'm talking about single data center. So in single data center, there would be multiple racks, racking and stacking. So there would be multiple racks into the single data center, and your VMs will be placed into different rack. So if your one rack goes down, still you would be able to access the virtual machine from other rack. But if your data center goes down, it means your application will be down, which rarely happens, but yes, if your data center will be down, so your application will be down. So you will get maximum availability by placing your virtual machine into multiple data centers, which is known as high availability zone into Azure, where you will get maximum high availability. If your region goes down, which would be in disaster scenario, we need to assume, like in disaster scenario, if my data center goes down due to storm, due to some natural disaster, due to tsunami, so what would be the next option? How I will give SLA to my customer? How I will ensure maximum high availability? In that case, you can use DR, disaster recovery, where you can configure disaster recovery for your application. Next, so when I'm going to use high availability. So I have to design my virtual network. I have to design my subnets. I have to design my application where I'm going to place my application into availability set or into availability zone. But after placing your virtual machines, which would be identical. So let's assume my application is www.xyz.com. That is my application URL. So behind this application URL, I'm using two-tier application architecture. So in front end, I'm using three virtual machines, let's assume, which would be my web tier. Then in DB tier, I'm using two virtual machine where I'm using master database and I'm using standby database. So master DB and standby DB. And there would be replication from master to standby, which I'm using for DB tier. So now whenever my application, my users and users, they will send requests to my web application, the request should be distributed to all instances which I'm using for high availability purpose. So how I will ensure that my requests which I'm getting from my customer, from my end users, that will be distributed to my backend resources or all backend resources. So we have to use one service which is known as load balancer. So you need to use load balancer. Load balancer will distribute your request to backend resources. So Azure Load Balancer, which by default supports round robin algorithm. Round robin algorithm. So this would be the algorithm which is used by your standard load balancer, standard Azure load balancer to distribute requests to all backend resources. It means it will distribute requests evenly to all backend or to all your instances which is connected to your load balancer. And you have to configure your load balancing rule. You need to specify which port and protocol you are going to allow so that your load balancer can listen for a request on port 80 or on port 443. So it depends basically. So you need to choose, you need to configure all these things. You need to configure a public IP address if you are going to use internal or external load balancer or public load balancer, sorry. So it depends on that. So URL is www.xyz.com, and behind this application URL we have four instances which would be responsible for my web content. So my load balancer will distribute these requests to my all web server. So first request will be sent to first server, second will be sent to second server, third will be sent to third server, fourth will be sent to fourth server. So that is called round robin algorithm, or your load balancer will distribute requests evenly to all web instances. So in that case, I will use load balancer, correct? And using load balancer, you are going to ensure that my request, which I'm getting from internet, that will be distributed to my all backend instances or backend virtual machines. So in Azure, we have layer 4 load balancer, which is a standard load balancer, and we have layer 7 load balancer, to which you can distribute your application content or you can distribute your request on HTTP or HTTPS. So let me move to my slides once again. So Azure Load Balancer, which automatically scales to create high availability just because it's a PaaS service, platform as a service. So underlying infrastructure will be managed by Azure. So you will get high availability and it will auto scale your load balancer if number of requests will be increased. So access to application of resources. Next resource is VPN gateway. When it comes to hybrid connectivity, so for, let's assume my resource, my web application resources are placed into Azure. And due to compliance, I have to place my database, like let's assume I'm a financial organization, I'm a banking organization. So when I'm a financial organization and banking organization, then compliance come in picture. So regulatory compliance. So based on the regulatory compliance, I need to ensure that my database, my customer database will not expose to internet, or I have to place, or I have to store my database, my customer database into within the organization. So in that case, what you need a web application which you are going to place into cloud, and you need one hybrid connectivity from cloud to your data center, and where you will connect your web endpoint with your DB endpoint through this hybrid connectivity. So we have two options. First option is site to site VPN, through which I can connect my cloud resources with my on-premise data center, or second would be express route. I can use express route, which would be a totally dedicated private connection. So through ISP, my ISP will connect basically my data center with Azure data center, and I'm going to use ISP's backbone network. Similar to lease line, similar to point connection, we're going to use express route, in which you will get maximum 100 Gbps bandwidth. So as compared to VPN, you will get large throughput or bandwidth into express route. In VPN, maximum bandwidth which you will get would be 5 Gbps, which depends on the VPN SKUs. So what we have different type of SKU into VPN. So based on your requirement, number of connections which you need, number of site to site connection, point to site connection, or video to video connection, and based on your bandwidth requirement, you will choose one SKU. So maximum bandwidth which you will get into VPN would be 5 Gbps. And in express route, you will get 100 Gbps. Now, Azure Application Gateway. So as I told you, load balancer, which works on layer 4. If I have layer 7 content, if I have application and I wants to distribute my layer 7 content with my backend resources, so I will use application gateway, Azure Application Gateway, which will give me security as well. So provide management of traffic to your web application, and it works on layer 7. It filter your request based on HTTP or HTTPS traffic. You can configure SSL. Correct. You can do SSL offloading as well. You can do path-based routing or URL-based routing. You can configure path-based routing, URL-based routing. You can enable cookie-based session. So where you can basically, that is known as sticky session. You will get connection training. So it will remove your backend resources gracefully. So you will get connection training as well. You will get WebSocket 2 support. You will get HTTP 2 support. You will get web application firewall support into Azure Application Gateway. And if I'm going to enable a web application firewall, so which will protect me from SQL injection or cross-site scripting or OWASP top 10 rules, so which will be implemented on my Azure Application Gateway. So these benefits I will get if I'm going to use Azure Application Gateway. Next is Content Delivery Network, CDN. So as Azure have a larger network, so they have regions more than other cloud service providers. So we have 60 plus regions into Azure, which are into 140 countries. So as compared to AWS, in AWS we have 24 to 25 regions into AWS. So as compared to AWS, you will get more regions into Azure. So they have larger network, they have global presence. So based on their global presence, you will get a global connectivity. So apart from their backbone network, you will get edge locations as well. So where you can distribute your static content, your dynamic content through CDN, which will increase performance of your application. Now, why I will use CDN and what benefit I will get through the CDN? So basically, when I'm talking about CDN, what it does mean, it means, let's assume that is my web application, and that is Azure storage account. So web application, storage account, there are some static content which are stored into this storage account, like videos, images, JPG file, sorry, video, images, and PDF file, some HTML style sheets which are stored in this storage account. And my web application is accessing all these static content. So this web application will be accessible through over the internet. Now users, they are accessing, end users, they're sending requests to access these content. So might be this user who's streaming video, this user who is accessing some PDF file, this user who is accessing some image, this user who is accessing or streaming some video content from my web application. Now they all are in different regions, and they're sending requests to my web application, which is globally accessible. So while accessing application, they all are facing some performance issue. They're facing latency. So how I will resolve this kind of problem? So either I can distribute my application into multi-region. Correct. If I'm going to distribute this application into multi-region, this would be cost to my organization. I need to place resources into all region. I need to configure all those resources. I need to enable DB sync, database synchronization, which should be real-time database synchronization, and which would be a complex task. And it would be a overhead, extra burden on your administrator side, just because when it comes to database synchronization, this would be a challenging task for your admin. So, and again, it would be cost to your organization where you have to manage multiple sites. What we can do, we can use CDN, content delivery network. So by using CDN, what Azure will do, Azure will cache your static content on user's location into edge servers. So content will be cached on user location. So first user who is requesting for the content, that request will be sent to CDN, and then CDN will send this request to your web application, that is to origin server. Origin server will respond to the request, and this content will be cached to your edge server. Second user who is requesting for the same content, this content will be served from the local server, which would be into the nearest local server from your user side. And then user will not face any performance issue, any latency issue. You can enable purging also, so where you can remove older content from through your CDN. Just because that is configured by you. If your content is older, and if you have some update, you can purge, you can delete your all content before TTL. So basically you will specify TTL to remove, to clear your cache. If you have some update, you can enforce your update through purging. You can delete your older content from your all edge locations, which is called CDN. So CDN will increase your performance and it will reduce latency for your end users. Azure policies. What is Azure policy basically? When it comes to policies, when it comes to compliance, so basically in Azure we have Azure Security Center, one tool through which you will get a security report, a secure score for your account, for your resources, for your subscription. So resources which is deployed by you in your organization inside your subscription. So your resource based on the compliance, regulatory compliance which you have selected, so based on their policies, so your resources are how much resources are compliant, how much percentage they are compliant. So you will get a secure score, like out of 20, 10, 5 or 8. So and then you will get recommendation also. So recommendation for your resources, recommendation for your infrastructure as a service, your virtual machines, network. You would be able to do your network hardening as well. You can manage your on-premise resources as well through the security center. Similarly, when it comes to compliance, if I have some custom policies which I need to apply on my subscription or to my resources, so users who have permission, who are authorized user to perform any activity inside my account, let's assume I have user 1, I have user 2, correct, I have 2 users into my organization. So both user have full right to create, update and delete resources. So they have full permission to create, update, and delete resources. What I want now, compliance come in picture where I have to create policies and which I need to apply. So and which will be applied to your admin users as well. Correct. So that you can enforce your user to create or deploy resources in compliant manner. Correct. So now let's take a scenario, use case. Let's assume user 1 who would be responsible for virtual machine. He is a VM admin. User 2 who is a DB admin. So user 1 who is a VM admin. So it means he can create virtual machine, he can update virtual machine, he can delete virtual machine. He has full right to do this. And he would be able to create virtual machine into any reason just because he is the admin. So he can create virtual machine into any reason. What I want that just because I have some regional compliance which state that my resources should be placed into central India only. Okay. Now, if this would be the condition or compliance rule, so I need to ensure that whatever deployments are going on for my project, so my all resource should be, my all virtual machine should be placed inside central India region. So I can manage my compliance rule. Then what you will do, how you will ensure that whatever resource deployment will be done by your user or your employees or your admins, that they all are deploying resources in the central India. So what you will do, you will create one policy into Azure, and that policy you will apply to your subscription resource group or to management group. These are the scope levels where I can scope on policy. So if the user one who is responsible for complete subscription, I will apply this policy to my subscription. If user one who is responsible for resource group only, one resource group, so he have a specific project, and this policy I need to apply for this user or for that project only. So I will apply that policy to resource group only. Once this policy will be applied to your resource group or to your scope level, which could be your management group, your subscription, or your resource group, user can only deploy resources in Central India. If he is trying to deploy resource into any other region except than Central India, his deployment will be failed, and he will get one non-compliance message in which you can specify your condition. So whenever your deployment will be failed, user will check error. In error, he will get a non-compliance message that your resource deployment is failed due to a regional policy. Correct. And you should deploy your resource into Central India region only, which you can specify into non-compliance message. So Azure policy is a service to create, assign, and manage policies. These policies enforce different rules and effect over the resource. So those resources take compliant with your corporate standard and service level agreement. So based on compliance, based on your corporate standard, based on the SLA, you can enforce policy, you can restrict your user to deploy a virtual machine with compute size, specific compute size, into specific location, or into if you are deploying virtual machines, so backup should be enabled. This could be also a use case as per my compliance rule. So backup should be enabled for my all Azure virtual machines. So I can enforce one policy. So whenever user will create a virtual machine, backup should be enabled for my all virtual machines. If user is not going to enable backup, deployment will be failed. So this kind of policies I can create, which I can apply to my resource, or I can also assign to my resource group, I can assign to my subscription, or I can assign to my management group. Assigning permission, assigning policy will take 15 minutes. So whenever you will assign a policy, it will take 15 minutes to start evaluation. So basically, whenever you will create one policy and you will apply a policy to Azure resources, it will do evaluation. So existing resources, so you will get a report, the resources which was created before the policy, so those resources are compliant or non-compliant. So you will get one status in which you will get the report for non-compliant resources as well, and then you can remediate those resources which comes under into non-compliant. Correct. So evaluation will be done by your policies after 15 minutes. It will take up to 15 minutes basically. So up to 15 minutes it will take. So within 15 minutes it will start evaluation, and you will get one report in which you will get that these are the compliant resources and these are the non-compliant resources. And for non-compliant resources, you can implement remediation that you can configure. How you will implement policies? So basically you will create a definition. Now we have two options into Azure policy. First is policy definition, and second is initiative definition. There are two terms into Azure policy: policy definition and initiative definition. So when I'm saying policy definition, like I'm going to create one policy for allowed location. So my user, they should deploy resources into East US only. Correct. This would be a policy definition which I have created. Similarly, I will create another policy definition which would be for VM size. So my user, if they are deploying virtual machine, so they should use this size like DS1 V2. This would be the size which my user should use to create virtual machine. If my user is not using this virtual machine size or SKU, so his deployment will be failed. So this would be another policy definition. So policy definition means individual policies. If I have to apply all these policy definitions like East location policy, VM size policy, and another policy definition which would be for tags. So if I have to apply all these policy definition to single scope, which would be my resource group, correct? And I need to apply all these policy. So there are two ways to apply these policies. First way, I will create these policy definitions individually, and one by one, I will apply all these policy definition to my scope level. If scope level is common, I will create individual policy definition. So what I will do, I will create one initiative definition in which I will include multiple policies. Correct. I will include more than one policies, and this initiative definition I will apply to my scope level. So whatever policies are there into this initiative definition, all these policies will in single coordination, all these policies will be applied on my scope level. Rather than applying one by one, you will group your all policies, which you will apply to your resource group or to your subscription or to your management group. That is known as initiative definition. So first of all, you will get one policy definition, that is single policy, which you will assign to your resource, and then you will review your evaluation result. Evaluation will be done in 15 minutes. It will take up to 15 minutes. A policy definition express what to evaluate and what action to take, as I told you. Implement your policy definition by assigning it to a group of resources. Review the result. Results are either compliant or non-compliant, as I told you that once evaluation will be done. So as your policies will evaluate your all resources, and you will get one evaluation report where you will get non-compliant and compliant resources, and later you can do remediation for your non-compliant resources. Again, policy initiative, as I told you, we have initiative definition also. So single policy is known as policy definition. Group of policies are known as initiative definition, which I can associate or scope to my single scope level, which could be my management group, which could be my resource group, or which could be my subscription. It depends where I'm going to apply this policy. So if I have multiple policy which I need to apply to a single scope, I will group my all policies into a definition which is known as initiative definition, and then I will apply this initiative definition to my scope level. Correct. So let me show you portal, and then we will start our lab. So for theory content, we are done. I'm going to show you lab Azure Load Balancer. That is my portal, basically Azure portal, which you all can see. So in this portal, as you can see, there's a search bar. If you will follow my cursor, there's a search bar. If I'm a beginner, if I don't know anything, like if I have to create virtual machine, if I have to create resource group, if I have to create virtual network gateway, VPN gateway, or if I have to create load balancers, application gateway, or VNet, any resource, any service, if I have to create, and I don't know from where I will get that service and resource, simply you can type your keyword into this search bar and you will get your resource. So where you can use this search bar. Correct. Let me show you. So let me search load balancer. So whenever you will type your keywords, you will get your service, you will get your resource, you will get documentation related to that resource, which you can open and you can read. You can learn from that documentation. Let me search load balancer. So based on my keyword, I will choose load balancer just because that is my requirement. Here you can see we have different types of load balancer. We have application gateway, we have front door, we have load balancer, we have traffic manager. So right now our objective is we have to choose load balancer and we need to create one new load balancer. Right now there's no load balancer is available in my portal, in my account. Let me create one load balancer. Before creating load balancer, let me show you my backend resources. So let me open a duplicate tab and let me search virtual machines. So here I have two virtual machines, web 1 and web 2. Let me show you. So I have already installed web content, that means IIS Server on my both virtual machines, and these are Windows virtual machines. Let me copy and paste their IP addresses, public IP addresses into the web browser. Here you can see that is my web 1. Similarly, if I'm going to access web 2, let me copy public IP address of web 2. Let me paste into my browser. Here you can see web 2 will be accessible. Now we need to assume both servers are identical. Correct. So now I need to distribute my request to these both server. How I will distribute my request? I'm going to use a service, a load balancer for distributing request to these backend. So let me create one load balancer. Click on create. Here you have to select your subscription first, then resource group. In which resource group these resources will be created. Basically, resource group is a container. It's a logical unit. It's a container where you can group your similar kind of your resources which are associated to a single entity. So my single application is a web application, and behind my web application, I'm going to use my virtual machines, load balancer, database, VNet, public IP addresses, correct? So all these resources are associated to one single entity, which is my web application. So which I'm going to group in a single location where you can place all these resources in a container, which is known as resource group. Let me click on drop down and I have to select a existing resource group. I can create new resource group also, and I can place this load balancer into another resource group also, but I'm going to select here existing resource group. The name of your load balancer, I'm going to use LB1, load balancer 1. The region should be seen where you have your web endpoints. So as you can see, my virtual machines are into East US location. So I have to select East US because I'm going to create regional load balancer. Then SKU, we have two SKUs, standard and basic. So based on the SKU, you will get your feature, advanced feature, and limitations. So if I'm going to select basic, so my virtual machine should be in single virtual network behind a single availability set or behind a single VM scale set. Or I can associate more only 300 instances behind this basic load balancer. If I have to assign or associate more than 300, then I will choose standard load balancer, where I can associate my virtual machines from virtual network through IP addresses through their NIC card, or from a VM skill set. I can use I will get high availability, where I can choose high availability options, multi-agent configuration. So these features I will get into standard, and where in basic I have limitation. So based on your requirement, you can choose basic or standard. I'm going to use here basic load balancer. Then type, we have two types of load balancer, public and internal. Public means which will accessible over the internet. Internal means which will work within the VPC or within the VNet only. That means in internal network. And tier, we have two tiers, regional and global. As you can see, if I have selected here basic, so global is grayed out. So it means global is only available with standard tier. So global means if you need high availability as per the region wise, so your load balancer will be accessible or it will be available across the region. You can choose global load balancer also, which is recently introduced into Azure. So previously this service was not available, but that is available now. That is in service now. So you will get a regional availability also for your load balancer. Let me select here basic. Then next step is IP configuration tab, where you need to configure front-end IP address. That means a public endpoint. Just because my load balancer type is public. Public means this will be accessible over the internet. So it means there would be some public IP address which will associate to my load balancer, where my user will send request and users. So right now there's no public IP address associated to this load balancer. We have to add one public IP address. So click on add public IP address, name of your public IP address. So I'm going to give here one name, which would be LB PIP1, load balancer public IP address 1. IPv4 or IPv6 version you can choose based on your requirement. Then choose your public IP address. So if you have existing public IP address which is free, that means that is not associated to any resource, you can select from drop down. If you don't have, you can create a new IP address. Let me create a new IP address. Name PIP1, and you can see in public IP address again we have SKUs, basic, standard. So in basic you will get no SLA, in standard you will get SLA. Tier, we have regional and global. So in basic we have only regional tier. Assignment, in basic you will get both assignment, dynamic and static. In standard you will get only static assignment. Let me click on OK. So it will create new public IP address. We need to click on add, and which will be associated to my load balancer as a front end, where my user will send request. Next is backend pool. So on backend pool, you have to add your virtual machines. The virtual machines are known as backend pool, which you can see here. A backend pool is collection of resources which your load balancer can send traffic. A backend pool can contain virtual machine skill sets, and containers. So if you have containers instances, if you have virtual machines, if you have VM skill set, you can use those resources as a backend. So in our case, we have two virtual machines, Web 1 and Web 2. as a backend, which we are going to add here. So let me click on add a backend pool. So pool name, pool one, virtual network you have to select. So this would be a VNet where my virtual machines are associated. So associated to virtual machine, version IPv4. Here you need to read out this line. So you can only attach virtual machines in East US that have basic SKU public IP configuration or no public IP configuration. All virtual machines must be in the same availability set, or all IP configuration must be in the same virtual network. So if they, just because of my load balancer SKU. So as I have selected basic SKU, so as I told you, there would be limitation. So your VM should be behind single availability set. They should be placed in the same VNet, correct? In standard, doesn't matter. My VMs will be associated to multiple availability set or into different VNet. I would be able to associate my all virtual machines behind my load balancer. Let me click on add here. So whenever I will click on add, you can see I have two virtual machines, web 1, web 2, and both are associated to single availability set, AVST1, and both are associated to single virtual network, RGVNet1. And that's why these virtual machines are listed here. So I'm going to select both virtual machines, which I'm going to add as a backend. Let me click on add, then click on add. So these virtual machines will be added as a backend resource behind my load balancer. The next inbound rule. So where you have to specify your load balancing rule, that means your load balancer, which will get a request from internet. So which traffic your load balancer should enable, that you need to add here. So let me click on add a load balancing rule, and rule would be, rule name would be rule 1, version would be IPv4. In my case, I have to select a front-end IP address. So if I'm getting any request on this public IP address via this protocol, where your load balancer is a layer 4 load balancer, so it means it will distribute your all requests on TCP and UDP, on transport layer protocol. So if I am getting any request on this public IP address over this protocol TCP on this port number, which port number? On port number 80. So this would be my source port now, and this would be my backend port. Correct. Then I have to select my backend pool where I have my virtual machines. Let me select pool 1. So pool 1 is my backend pool. If you have health prop, you can configure your health prop, just because load balancer will do a health monitoring as well, a periodic health monitoring for your instances. So if any resource will be unhealthy, your load balancer will not distribute any request to your unhealthy resources. And this health check will be done through health prop. So right now we don't have any health prop, as you can see in drop down. Let me create a new health prop. So prop name would be prop 1 protocol, through which you're going, your load balancer is going to check the health of your resource, where you can choose as TCP or HTTP. I'm going to use TCP here. So on protocol TCP on port number 80, my load balancer will send request after every 5 seconds. If my load balancer will receive 2 consecutive failure, so my load balancer will understand that the resource is unhealthy, and load balancer will not distribute any request to this unhealthy resource. Let me click on OK. So this would be my health prop here. Session persistence. What is session persistence? Session persistence is similar to cookie-based session, where I can specify my client IP address, client IP, and protocol. So if I will specify, so my request should be sent to this particular backend resources. Correct. So I can create a sticky session that is called here 5-hash tuple rule. So source IP, source protocol. So that is your client IP, client protocol, and then destination IP, destination protocol, and port number, so that you can specify. So that is called 5-hash tuple rule. Timeout, which would be 4 minutes for a connection, TCP connection. If you want, you can increase it to maximum 30 minutes. Floating IP address, if I'm using VIP or HRRP, so similar to that, I can use multiple public IP addresses where I can enable floating IP address. Let me click on add. So this load balancing rule will be added here. Once this will be added here, you can click on next, or you can configure inbound NAT rule, which is optional here. So if you want, you can configure, otherwise you can skip. So where I will use inbound NAT rule. So let me give you one scenario. Let's assume that is my load balancer, And inside my load balancer, that is behind my load balancer, I have two web instances, web 1 and web 2. Load balancer, which is connected to internet. Users, they are sending requests to load balancer public IP address, that means to front end. And then load balancer will check its load balancing rule, correct? In which we have already specified if I'm getting request on TCP port number 80, source port would be 80, then this request will be sent to my backend resources where I have a pool of server, correct? So my request will be distributed to my pool 1 in which I have two servers. Now, on both web endpoint, I do not have any public IP address. Let's assume I don't have public IP. So in any case, if I have to access console of my web application through RDP or through SSH, how I will access my virtual machines through RDP or through SSH? Just because I don't have public IP address. And I need to access these virtual machines securely. So as per compliance, I cannot associate any public IP address to my virtual machines. I cannot directly expose my virtual machines to internet just because of compliance rule. What would be the option? Option would be NAT inbound rule. Correct. Where you can configure network address translation. You can use your load balancer public IP address as a front end, where you can specify your custom port, source port, which would be like 50,001. So if any request from internet on your load balancer public IP address on this port, so this request will be sent to your virtual machine private IP address on port number 3389 or port number 22. That means on your SSH port. So this rule you can create, which would be a secure rule. So user who have public IP address of load balancer as well as this port number, you would be able to access your virtual machine console or RDP or SSH, so that your user would be able to manage your virtual machine or resources or application. Again, that is optional here. So I'm not going to configure this rule. Outbound rule, we are not going to configure outbound rule here. And that is grayed out. Tags are optional. Tags are metadata basically. So through which you will describe that for what purpose you are going to create this load balancer, or I'm going to create this load balancer for a project. So I will assign one tag to this resource, so I can easily identify my all resources which will be associated to this particular project or to this particular company project. Correct. That I can define through tags. Again, that is optional. Click on review. And click on create. So this deployment will take 1 minute to create your load balancer. So within 1 minute, your load balancer will be deployed and you would be able to see your progress here. So as you can see, public IP address which is created. So one by one, you will complete transparency over the resources which will be created by your load balancer. So LB1, which is created here, load public IP address is created here. Now your NIC card, that means your virtual machines NIC card, that will be associated to your load balancer, which you can see that is okay. So NIC1 is updated, NIC2 will be updated, and you can see my deployment is done successfully. So within 1 minute, your load balancer will be deployed. Once it will be deployed, you would be able to test your load balancer. Let me show you. So here you can see I have one public IP address on my load balancer, which is known as front end. So let me go to front end from left hand side. Under settings tab, you will get your front end where you will get your public IP address. Let me copy this public IP address and let me paste into the browser. You can see my request is sent to web1. So let me send requests because my load balancer will send requests to evenly to my all web endpoints. Let me clear my DNS cache, local system DNS cache. So, or you can configure your browser cache so that your request should be sent to new server. Otherwise, your browser will send this request to the previous server, just because if your browser cache will be enabled, or your local server DNS cache will be enabled. Request will be sent to a same server. Let me open another browser, or you can use incognito mode as well. That is in private browsing also, where you can test where your request will be sent. Let me copy and paste this IP address into the chat box. You all will get this IP address in your chat box. If you will copy and paste this IP address, you all would be able to understand that you will get response from different server. And just because in my system, I have already configured my browser cache as well as my local DNS cache. That's why I'm getting response from the same server. So you need to click on connect, and here you can see I'm getting now pop-up for authorization, for authentication, sorry, for authentication. So my username is Azure user, and then my password of my virtual machine. Let me click on yes. And as you can see, now I have access of my VM web 2. Let me go to local server, and here you can see I'm connected to web 2. So that's how you would be able to manage your resources. You would be able to manage your backend resources through NAT rule. You can distribute a request to multiple backend resources through the load balancer. So now we are done with this lab also, and I hope you all have now basic understanding on Azure load balancer, Azure virtual network and networking components, as well as Azure policies and Azure management tools, which you can use to manage Azure resources. We are done with this webinar, and I hope you all have enjoyed this webinar, guys. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. Bye-bye. Take care.